Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. Kicking things off is Ms. Lauren Cohen. Lauren, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Arts Advocacy Day Know Before You Go webinar. In this time together, we will talk about all the aspects of Arts Advocacy Day, things that you should expect, and other aspects of the two-day period that we'll have together to learn how to be better arts advocates. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Merrick Rome, who's the Vice President of Government Affairs here at Americans for the Arts. Merrick?
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everybody. We are very excited in the midst of the final planning stages for the 30th Annual Arts Advocacy Day, and we're very excited for, as of right now, just over 650 advocates from almost every single state. We may have hit 50 states by now around the country, coming to Washington, D.C. To walk the halls of Congress and reach out to their congressional delegations to show support for the arts education, arts nonprofits, and related issues that we'll get into shortly.
And as we get started with this webinar today, I will point out that there is a chat box. So if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, please feel free to put that in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Let's go ahead and start with a look at our schedule. This is the agenda for Arts Advocacy Day that you're seeing right now. This is also available online, and it will be available on our app as well. We'll tell you more about the app a little bit later. But this is the agenda for Arts Advocacy Day. You'll see that it starts first thing with Arts Advocacy Day Newcomers Orientation, including a congressional meeting role play. This is really going to be wonderful for those of you who are first-time attendees of Arts Advocacy Day. It'll really get you oriented to everything that you're going to expect for the rest of that Monday and into Tuesday when you're on Capitol Hill. And as an added feature, we include a congressional meeting role play, which will show you what it'll probably look like when you walk into a congressional office and you're interacting with congressional staff, senators, and members of Congress. So that's really going to be a great way to start the day. Then we move into legislative and political updates. Now we have two different sessions here, one for novice advocates and one for advanced advocates. We're going to leave it up to you to decide which one to go to. But for those of you who are first-time attendees to Arts Advocacy Day, we encourage you to check out the novice advocate session there. This will really just kind of help you dive into what the legislative process is like. And it won't be too in the weeds. It'll just give you a better understanding of how these bills get moved through Congress. And then after that, we're going to go into a briefing on the National Endowment for the Arts, tax policy, and arts in education programs. Again, this is divided into a session for novice advocates and advanced advocates. So you choose which one you would like to attend. We have some developments today about the National Endowment for the Arts. So all of those developments and what's coming up will be included in those sessions. Next, we move into facts and figures to make your case. This session is going to be really wonderful. It's hosted by Randy Cohen, who is on our staff here at Americans for the Arts. And this is the latest research that's really going to help you support the stories and the examples that you give to your members of Congress, because having hard numbers and hard data is always great to back up those stories. Then that will move us into a lunch time. This will be an hour-long a buffet lunch, and then we will also have a speaking program. Merrick, would you like to say anything else about the lunch?
Sure. We'll have the speaking program will feature two individual advocates, one speaking on behalf of PEN America organization and their petition work, and then also a gentleman named Jonathan Estabrooks, who will be talking about a Artists for Arts initiative that he's been spearheading in the last month and a half. And so that will be take up a little time right after the research presentation and right before lunch is served.
Excellent. After lunch, we'll move into concurrent breakout panels on policy issues. Now, all of these policy issues you'll find in your Arts Advocacy Handbook, which you'll receive on Monday, March 20th. And we'll show you some examples of that later in the webinar. But all of these breakout sessions reflect the information that is in those issue briefs in your handbook. So for the first session, you'll have 4 different breakout panels to choose from. And then the second session, you'll have 5 breakout panels to choose from. If you have any questions about information that's going to be shared in these sessions, please feel free to use the chat box now, and we'll try to answer those questions for you. Moving on through the day, after the concurrent breakout panels on policy issues, we'll move into a brief refreshment break, and then we'll jump right back into concurrent breakout sessions. Now this next portion at 2:25 p.m. Is brand new for Arts Advocacy Day, and we're very excited about these 3 concurrent panels. So you'll choose one of the following. The first is Views from Organizational Leaders, helping students find their advocacy voice. This session is really designed for those of you who work with students, either as teachers, professors, or in your arts organizations. The next session is Views from Student Leaders, Finding Your Advocacy Voice. This is specifically designed as a student session. So if you're a student joining us for Arts Advocacy Day, we highly encourage that you attend this student session. The last one in this concurrent breakout series is Views from a Legislative Leader, a town hall with Massachusetts Senate President Stan Rosenberg. This will be a really wonderful session for those of you who don't work with students or who are not students, because you'll be able to sit in on this town hall with Massachusetts Senate President Stan Rosenberg, where he'll speak for a few minutes, and then you'll have a wonderful period of question and answer with this wonderful advocate for the arts. After this session here, we're going to move right on into state delegation planning time. Now, all of you that are registered for Arts Advocacy Day, you should have been hearing from your state captains, and we have 5 states that really have shown us a lot of registration. Those 5 states will be in separate rooms. So if you are from Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, Ohio, or Virginia, you'll be in a separate room with just fellow registrants from your state. All other states will be back in the large room, the blue room, and you'll group together in your state so you can talk about what your game plan is for the next day on Capitol Hill and how you're going to reach out to your members of Congress. After that state delegation planning time, there's the opportunity to attend the Americans for the Arts Action Fund reception and fundraiser. This is a cocktail reception, but we should note that a $50 donation to the Arts Action Fund is required to attend. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please plan on that donation. If you do not want to attend the Arts Action Fund reception and fundraiser, this is time that can be used for continued state planning time or for time to just relax before moving on with the rest of the evening and into the 30th annual Nancy Hanks Lecture on Arts and Public Policy. When you registered for Arts Advocacy Day, you had the option to choose whether or not you wanted to reserve a free ticket to the Nancy Hanks Lecture. If you did elect to get a free ticket to the lecture, then we will all convene at the Kennedy Center here in Washington, D.C. We have arranged to have bus service from the Omni Shoreham Hotel to the Kennedy Center and then back to the hotel after the lecture. We're very excited this year to feature Darren Walker, who's the president of the Ford Foundation, as our lecturer. And he'll be introduced by Thelma Golden, who is the Director and Chief Curator of the Studio Museum in Harlem in New York. And we'll also have a special performance by Anna Devere Smith, who is an acclaimed actress, playwright, and teacher. That'll be a really wonderful evening at the Kennedy Center. After that, if you're interested, there is a happy hour with the emerging arts leaders of DC. That happy hour is going to be at a restaurant called Bayou here in Washington. It's about a 10-minute walk from the Kennedy Center, or you can easily get a cab or Uber or Lyft down to that happy hour. But this will be a really fun time to interact with other emerging leaders and advocates from across the country and hear about the efforts that they have in advocacy. This moves us right on into Tuesday. Tuesday is our big day on the Hill, and it begins with the Congressional Arts Kickoff event. This is on Capitol Hill in a Senate office building. This is in the Kennedy Caucus Room. It's a beautiful room, and for those of you who have not visited Capitol Hill before, this really does look like quintessential Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill. It's a really beautiful room, and we'll have this hour-and-a-half time together to really get excited and energized for a day of meetings on Capitol Hill with your members of Congress and senators. So we have some really exciting speakers for that morning, to include the chairman of the NEA, Jane Chu, and several members of Congress. And we'll also be giving our Congressional Arts Leadership Award to Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. So we're excited to see her that morning and to give this award to her. So that's from 8:30 to 10 o'clock in the morning. Something to note about this Congressional Arts Kickoff event is that there is no provided transportation from the Omni Shoreham Hotel to Capitol Hill. So you're responsible for getting yourself from the hotel to Capitol Hill. There's information online about how to do this, but you can easily hop on the Metro and take it to Union Station, which is on the Red Line, or you can get a cab, Uber, or Lyft. But it is definitely not walkable from the hotel. You can also check out the logistics guide, which is posted online, and this will give you more details about how to get around town in Washington. After the Congressional Arts Kickoff event, then we move right into our lobbying visits. So this is where you will be with your state groups and moving around Capitol Hill to meet with senators and members of Congress, telling them everything that you learned the day before in those state planning times and in those breakout sessions. So this really is scheduled up to you and up to your state captain. So it'll be really, really handy for you to utilize that state delegation planning time well the day before on Monday to make the most of your lobbying visits. And that really takes us to the end of the day and the end of Arts Advocacy Day. So I don't see any questions in the chat box. As a reminder, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them over there. But now that we are at the end of this schedule, we'll talk a little bit about our website.
So this is Narek picking up the website piece. And so on the Arts Advocacy Day website, we have a number of resources that we want to make sure in your preparations to come to Washington you're aware of. For many of you, and perhaps all of you, who went to this page to register your attendance, and we've had a running schedule posted there, similar to what Lauren just presented. We have continued information on the travel and housing. If you are still looking for hotel possibilities, there's some suggestions there. And then also, I think as of this date, the most important section is the facts and figures to make your case element of the page. That is right here and on the screen. And so what's key here is that we have what Lauren mentioned already, the 2017 Congressional Arts Handbook. For 30 years, we've provided this handbook. It's become a staple piece of Arts Advocacy Day, both by the advocates and by members on the Hill, congressional staff on the Hill. And a key part of the facts and figures page is both the link to the handbook, which is we'll get into a little bit further in a second, then also the committee lists that demonstrate who is on what committees of relevance. And then also, if you have not heard or you're interested in learning more about the state captains, there's a link there. And then lastly, one more thing, on the bottom of that page is a list of all of the grants. Now these have just been updated, so if you were there a week ago, 2 weeks ago, those were all the 2015 grants. Now we have the 2016 grants available, and here's a page that demonstrates what they look like. This is Alabama, and each state's PDF is in order of congressional district, and then there is at least one grant per congressional district, and as you can see in Alabama too, there's a number of them. And then also it provides some brief information. This is all from the National Endowment for the Arts database, and it provides advocates a quick way to see just last year's grants for those congressional districts.
And I'll pause here to note we have several questions coming in regarding state captains, and those of you who have not heard from your state captain. On the facts and figures to make your case tab, there's this page with all of the state captains listed, and their names are linked to their email address. So please visit that page, click on their name, and send them an email letting them know that you are from their state and that you're coming to Arts Advocacy Day. If you don't hear back, or if you do not have a state captain, please just email me, Lauren Cohen. You'll see my name there, and it links to my email address as well. So please just email me if you don't hear anything back from your state captain.
I will try and respond to some of the questions that have come in about Arts Advocacy Day, and I'll just paraphrase them for the purposes of this recorded webinar. So first question is about, well, Lauren mentioned what to do about the state captains. I want to address the question today is the day that the Trump administration FY 2018, fiscal year 2018 federal budget proposal was put out. And in that proposal that was released at 7 this morning, it proposes elimination of the National Endowments for the Arts, the Endowment for the Humanities, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the Institute for Museum and Library Services, and a number of other federal agencies. And we are, as we have been expecting, we're very concerned about that. And that is, Arts Advocacy Day is now 2 business days following the release of this budget. So about as close to a response as you could get to have 650 people show up to speak out about that. And so, yes, the messaging that is in the Congressional Arts Handbook and the issue briefs that are in there are all products of 88 national partners that contributed since November in crafting and authoring these issue briefs to make sure that we are all in agreement and have a consensus message with the purpose of supporting those agencies. And there's an issue brief on a number of the programs that I just mentioned, different funding streams, and there's overall there is 13 issue briefs and 5 statements of concern that will cover quite a run of policy areas. That's the cover of the handbook right there that you will get when you arrive. It's online as well on the Arts Advocacy Day page, as we mentioned, and is a key element. And I don't think that there will be any time wasted if you read through that before you get to Arts Advocacy Day on Monday. We will then, as Lauren pointed out through the schedule, be going through these issue briefs with the folks that helped to write them, so that, and you'll have the chance to ask questions to understand more fully. You can see the full scope of the issue briefs right here in this table of contents in the handbook. It starts with the NEA. We have a couple issue briefs on arts education. We have 2 that relate to tax reform, museum services inside of IMOS, the Museum Library Services Agency. We have an issue brief about public broadcasting funding. We're asking for support on the CREATE Act, and you'll learn more about that in a breakout session. Cultural exchange program through the U.S. Department of State is another one of the elements that in today's budget is being impacted negatively. The visa process for foreign guest artists is being impacted by the effort to impose a travel ban, and artists from those countries are caught up in that. In addition, that's just the immediate piece. The long-term policy issue revolves around an already stymied process for bringing artists from abroad to our performing arts centers. And then 2 issue briefs on arts in health and arts in the military, 2 very timely topics, and then arts and infrastructure, which would be relating to transportation and public art issues. And then I mentioned we have 5 statements of concern, which are usually shorter and a little bit more broad in their coverage of an issue. They are on health care coverage, which impacts the Affordable Care Act's repeal and replace effort underway and the importance that it has to the arts and artists. Music licensing, national service in the arts, net neutrality regarding and then these last 2, net neutrality and protecting wireless technology, are 2 issues that come out of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and have a big impact on performance and the ability of artists to use the internet as a small business. And so the handbook also includes additional data relating to members of Congress and how they've supported the arts in recent years, and then also a whole section on facts and figures. If you like reading one-pagers about research and data, well, we've got a handbook for you. And then finally, there's a presentation at the end of the book that as I mentioned, 88 national partners for arts that take part in Arts Advocacy Day and help sponsor it and contribute to the policy portfolio that I just ran through. And they have letters and a directory of those organizations. Now, I saw a question about if you are an organization that works on the national level, who should you meet with in terms of Congress? The answer to that is, generally speaking, members of Congress either will only take meetings or prefer meetings with constituents. And it rarely makes a difference whether you are representing nationally or working nationally. They prefer to have folks who live in their district or in their state. And that's the same for us here at Americans for the Arts. We find it is much easier to walk into a congressional office with a member, an arts advocate from their state than what we do here as Washington residents. So I hope I've answered that question. So moving on from the handbook, we will also, here's a look from the table of contents in the handbook. Here's a demonstration of what an issue brief looks like that if you haven't seen, each of the briefs are similar in their format. So there's a headline, there's an action needed, which is a very important element when you're having meetings on Capitol Hill. The staff are always very happy to meet with the constituent, but to make an effective meeting, you should have something to ask of them. You can thank them as well for support that their boss, or if you're speaking with a member of Congress, may have given to the arts. But generally speaking, Arts Advocacy Day is about presenting these policy objectives to members of Congress, and there's the ask for the NEA, that we're asking to support a budget of $155 million. And the language that you see here and the talking points that are included are the product of several weeks and months of discussion among the national partners and the government affairs staff who have been working on this issue for years. And this issue brief is for 2017. And even though the administration today proposed terminating the NEA's funding, the point is that Congress makes the final funding decision, and that decision will begin in earnest in the week ahead of us. And so we are well timed to present members of Congress with what the arts community is asking for on Arts Advocacy Day, and this is our ask. That's the second page of it. It includes a number of more talking points that try to focus in on what are the most effective lines of argument with congressional staff and members of Congress. And we always encourage, and you'll hear this on Monday, we always encourage advocates to bring to the meeting your background, your role, and your experience in how the arts has impacted you as a local leader and impacted your community. These are just these talking points or guides, and we hope that you will amplify the examples or the arguments that are made here in order to make your pitch more effective.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about something very exciting for this year. This is the 30th annual Arts Advocacy Day, but this is the first time we've ever used the app. This app is available for download in either the Apple or the Android App Store. It is completely free. So all you have to do is go to the search bar in your App Store and type in Americans for the Arts, and you should see this app come up. Now let me go ahead and say first, this app is available for download now. However, you won't see any information about Arts Advocacy Day just yet. We hope to have that available for you by tomorrow, but keep on the lookout for it. But you are more than welcome to go ahead and get that app downloaded on your phone so it's ready to go for when you're here in Washington for Arts Advocacy Day. Keep checking back on that app just to see when information will be uploaded. But there's going to be a ton of wonderful resources right there on that app, so you'll have it with you. You won't have to lug around a ton of papers. So that's just what the open screen looks like for the app. And now it does say preview here, but it won't say preview for you when you actually get to see the content. But on the side here, you'll see a schedule, maps that are going to be important for you here in Washington. All of the issue briefs that Narek talked about are going to be right there on that app. All of the statements of concern, and then even things like key congressional committees for arts policy. So you can see if your member of Congress sits on one of these very important committees. And then you'll continue to scroll down. You'll see Arts Advocacy Day state captains, so you'll have that list right there as well, but it's the exact same list that I showed you a little earlier. Let's see. And then this is just a preview of what the front page of that app is going to look like, telling you just a little bit about exactly what Arts Advocacy Day is. So hopefully this app will be very usable for you, and like I said, that information will be available tomorrow. So stay on the lookout for it, but like I said, it is free to download in the Apple or Android App Store. And it's available now, so just search Americans for the Arts in your App Store. Now we want to talk a little bit about options for social media. Those of you who use social media like Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, this is for you. We really want to be able to promote Arts Advocacy Day well, and we want to have a unified statement on all of our social media platforms. So if you use hashtags, and you know what a hashtag is, we are going to use hashtag Arts Advocacy this year. So please use that whenever you're talking about Arts Advocacy Day in all of your social media platforms. And these are some really handy sample tweets so that you can start to get those out. But we'll have this social media toolkit in the app as well, so stay tuned for that. Now, this is just a picture from last year. This is part of the Maryland contingent, but this is what it looks like on the Hill on Arts Advocacy Day. So we just want to talk through just a few very basic logistical things with you now. You see all of these folks are dressed very nicely for all of their meetings on the Hill. So we encourage you to do so if you've got it, and please wear comfortable shoes. I know from walking around the halls of Congress heels get old after a little while. So please just wear comfortable shoes that day, and so that you are feeling comfortable and feeling good for a long day of advocacy on Capitol Hill. We have had a little bit of weather here in Washington, but hopefully this snow will be all melted and gone by the time you get here. But we're seeing that on Monday, it's a high of 59 degrees and sunny, and on Tuesday, a high of 59 degrees and a little bit cloudy. So it's not a bad idea to bring some light jackets and maybe an umbrella just in case.
Lauren, one of the questions I wanted to answer was if our state captain won't be attending, meaning they're presented in italics, can we still email them with questions? And I was going to say yes, you can certainly do that, and if you'd like, depending on what kind of question it is, CC Lauren Cohen here at Americans for the Arts, which is lcohen@artsusa.org, and that should hopefully address any direction of your question. If you have additional questions for the chat box, please put them in. I think we've reached the end of the slides, and realizing that there is still a lot of information to come your way, we wanted just to sort of get into, present you with what the handbook looks like, what the schedule looks like, and then also a little setup around the app, getting the app ready. The app, as Lauren mentioned, it's available in its as a program or as an app right now, but the content for Arts Advocacy Day has not populated yet. We are still inserting and adding some pieces. We expect it will be ready tomorrow, but it will automatically populate on your phone when you go to it, probably tomorrow or over our Saturday. We're putting a lot of information into it, and that's why you don't actually see Arts Advocacy Day in the app just yet, but you will. So please stand by on that. We just wanted to make sure that you were aware there would be an app in advance.
And I do see a question about a passphrase for the app. Once we have uploaded all of our information for Arts Advocacy Day, you won't need that passphrase. So don't worry about that just yet. Just go ahead and download the app now, and just keep checking back, as Narek said, tomorrow and into Saturday, and we'll get all that information up there for you.
Okay. Well, if there are any further questions, please put them in the chat box. Again, this is Narek Rome in the Government Affairs Office, and I'm joined by Lauren Cohen, also the Government Affairs Office. We will be two of the primary staff on site Monday and Tuesday running Arts Advocacy Day, along with all of our colleagues here at Americans for the Arts. As Lauren ended, and perhaps a step away from the political and the policy and the scheduling, it is a lot of commitment for those of you from around the country to make the trip to Washington. So we just want to simply say thank you very much for your financial commitment, for your time, and for your concentration abilities on Monday and on Tuesday in learning and gathering some of this material and making your pitches to your members of Congress and their staff throughout Tuesday, and doing so with a thoughtful and considerate message that is appropriate to the member and to the purpose of the day. And so if you have any further questions beyond the webinar, again, Narek Rome and Lauren Cohen in the Government Affairs Office. My email is nrome@artsusa.org, and Lauren is lcohen@artsusa.org. So thank you very much, and have a great trip to Washington.
Thank you.
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes.